Fire Emblem 5 is infamous among the 12 people that played it for being very sparse in its character writing. Most of its units only have the bare minimum in terms of character dialogue, maybe a sentence or two when they join, a sentence when they die, and that's about it. But even in Fire Emblem's least written cast, there are a lot of gems that can still shine through. Today's case is Linoan, the Duchess of the Free City Tarah, fiancée of Prince Arian of Thracia, and descendant of the legendary Crusader Haim. So let's get into an analysis that's less an analysis and more me extrapolating an entire Shakespearean character from about 6 sentences. Also, quick aside, all the footage you're seeing in this video is not from vanilla Fire Emblem 5, it's from a fan hack called Forsetti's Cut. It's just the footage of Thracia I had on hand, and I was too lazy to go get footage from the actual game. So if you see any portraits or map designs that look weird, that's why. Linoan is first mentioned in Chapter 2X by a woman named Safi. Safi remarks that Linoan has attempted to rebel against the evil empire and its child-hunting Satan cult, but things aren't going too well, and she sent Safi out to help. Now, Fire Emblem 5 is a midquel that takes place in between the 2 generations of FE4, and it uses that fact all the time to write its story. It assumes that the player knows what happens in FE4, and in this case, FE4 made it a point to say that its main character Seliph was not the first man to rebel, he's just the only one that actually won anything. So having Linoan fight a battle the player knows she's going to lose is a quick way to make the player concerned about what's happening. FE5 does this very well with Leif later, and Linoan can be seen as a prelude to that event happening. It's also worth noting that Linoan and her family are important to FE5's main character Leif because they sheltered him many years prior to the game's beginning, an act of defiance that Linoan's father died for. In part to repay this favor, and in part because he's just a good guy, Leif tells Safi that he will get Linoan the help she needs, but due to the interference of resident douchebag Raedric, it takes him about 10 chapters of Fog of War, Ballista spam, and endless reinforcement hordes to actually get to Tarah. When he gets there, things are very grim. Linoan's down to only a few dudes, and she could be run over at any moment. But she still stands proud, believing in her father's dying wish to see Leif survive, and she has no shame in his actions, even if it's led to the dire straits she's in now. Standing proud against tyranny might not be the most unique character trait, it's one of the basic ones for JRPGs, but it's still a likable one nevertheless, and it helps make her immediately endearing. Linoan's character is also enhanced, at least in my opinion, by the map design of Chapter 13 and 14. Now, I know that sounds weird, but hear me out. Chapter 13 has Leif running to Tarah as it's under fire and defended by only a flimsy cavalry squad. If Leif doesn't get there, Glade and his men cannot possibly hold out on their own. And in Chapter 14, it's one of the most difficult maps in the franchise, as Tarah is being swarmed by elite cavalry, it's being under fire by powerful ballista, and even has to tangle with dark sorcerers wielding magic that packs a ridiculous punch. The maps perfectly showcase the sorry state that Tarah is in, and in doing so, it makes the player understand just what Linoan's had to go through. Through the story of the map, the player learns the story of the character, and knowing that Linoan is standing in defiance through all of that bullshit makes her that much more appealing. But Linoan isn't standing entirely on her own. She has the Leonster Knight Glade and 2 Dragon Riders of Thracia, Dean and his sister Ida. Linoan speaks very highly of Dean, giving a flowery speech about how he's been the light in the darkness for her, that when she wanted to break down and cry, it was Dean's strong, silent personality that gave her a rock to lean on, and the courage to keep fighting. This seems like a classic lady and knight love story, except there's one problem. The whole reason Dean is with her is because she's the fiancée to Prince Arian of Thracia, and because Thracia is currently aligned with the Empire, Arian couldn't go there to protect her in person. So he sent Dean over to her under the guise that he deserted the army, and in doing so, accidentally made his own fiancée fall in love with another man. It's a classic story of forbidden love. Taboo romance has been a popular trope in media, I'm pretty sure since fiction writing existed, and while it doesn't get as much development as you would hope, it does make Linoan stand out more in FE's cast, and what the game doesn't cover, fanfiction and fan art will. It gives just enough crumbs to be interesting and let fans think about it on their own, which for a game with writing as sparse as Thracia, I think is more than enough. Unfortunately, more than enough does not apply to the next thing I want to talk about, my bank account. But with your help, that could change. That's right, I have a Patreon, where for as little as $3 a month, you can gain access to exclusive benefits like getting your name called aloud on videos and getting to vote in polls for upcoming episodes. Go to patreon.com/FEMSPaint, link in the description, for your chance to vote. The next poll is going to be on FE7 lords, either Lyn or Hector, and at the current moment Hector is beating Lyn's ass, but it's a small lead and it could change at any moment. Make your voice heard if you want to see an episode on Lyn. My patrons include the likes of Adebayo Thompson, Andrew Crockett, Bean Juice, Benz Again, Dr. McBackstab, Great Riek, Hell on Heelys, Ichigo D. Camus, Jaeger Guts, Kenpachi, Shiro Uzumaki, Kiryu Yamato, Kratos, Char Ansel, Frederick Sirius, Balsara Hakuman, The White Void, Despacito 2, Ly-17 Ball, Martha Valiant War Criminal, Morga Lorgan, Blade Arrow, Ranger Man Sam, Shen Lu, The Fool, the world's most unironic 8.5 tail stand, Walmart Greeter, Ya Girl Olwen, Brentendo 11, Drew Hack, Fire Emblem Lord, Ginger, Goo Goo Gaga, Cornelia Milkers 92, Maple Knight, and Upscale Furry Trash. Thank you all for your continued support, and I'll see you in the next one. But the game does give Linoan another scene, where Arian manages to sneak into Tarah and warn her that his father, King Travant, intends to seize the city for himself, as if Linoan didn't have enough to worry about. Arian can't stop his old man, but he can make sure that Thracia treats Tarah better than the Empire, and he can promise Linoan safety. She agrees to let Travant take over, but refuses Arian's protection, instead choosing to go on the land with Leaf and fight against the Empire. Again, a character refusing safety is not an uncommon thing in stories, but complaining that writing is made of tropes is like complaining that a tree is made of wood. Linoan's character still comes off as noble and proud, and she's likable and memorable for it. Now that Linoan is a unit in Leaf's army, I'm going to discuss her unit quality a bit, since that does affect how people view the character. She is a mage with no personal skills, mediocre base stats, and is incredibly underleveled. But she has a good staff rank, so that means she's A tier bare minimum. Staff users in Thracia are super funny, due to the prevalence of status staves that can radically change a map with only one use. Plus, due to the existence of growth-influencing scrolls, her low base level actually becomes her biggest strength, as you can rig her stats to be absurd. Scroll abusing isn't unique to Linoan, but she is a perfect storm of class and joy time that make it really easy for her to get abused. I should really rework how I wrote that, so she can easily leave an impression on players, because watching a growth unit get really good growths is always satisfying for a lot of players. However, it's at this point Linoan remembers she's a Thracia character, and does nothing in the story for pretty much the entire game. She does get a minor scene where she's revealed to have holy blood, specifically Heim for the nerds who care, but it doesn't really change much. She does have a scene in the epilogue of the game where she laments that Dean must leave her side. Now that Leaf's journey is over and Selip's is ongoing, Dean must return to Arian and Travant's side, thus making he and Linoan enemies. She begs him to stay, but Dean refuses. He does wish there was a way to make everyone happy, but that's not going to be very likely. It's sad to see, especially given how much Dean and Linoan have likely been a huge boon to your playthrough, and it helps add a bit of angst to both their characters that makes them stand out more. Their romance does not have a happy ending. Their character epilogues reveal that Linoan refused she and Arian's marriage and lived her whole life as a single woman, using Tarah's wealth and influence to aid Leaf from behind the scenes. But believe it or not, it was originally going to be way worse, with Dean and Linoan outright having an affair, and Arian would kill Dean for it. It ended up being scrapped, likely because having Arian do this doesn't mesh well with the kind-hearted man he's portrayed as in FE4. For whatever reason, we know a lot about what didn't happen with Arian. Like how we also know he was going to be lovers with Altena, despite the two of them being raised as siblings. Things get cut for a reason. Every character in Fire Emblem probably has shitty ideas about them that get reworked or outright removed, but we just know all of Arian's for some reason. Arian tangent aside, Linoan manages to be a solid character in the limited screen time that she has. She's your normal FE lady traits of a kind, beautiful, and serene woman, but a pretty face masks an iron will that will stand up in a world where doing so is arguably at its hardest in the entire franchise. Throw in a pinch of tragedy and romance, and you've got yourself one of FE5's best characters. Not bad for a woman who speaks 4 times in the entire game. Though that is 4 more times than Cain and Alva. Thank you very much for making it to the end of another character analysis video. The reason for the gap between these 2 episodes has been I just felt like doing other things. Variety's the spice of life, so now that it's been a while, I might get back in the swing of doing character analysis more consistently. And I would like to thank my buddy Guy for looking over the script. He hasn't had to do anything like this in a while, and I'm always thankful for him when he does get around to doing it. If you enjoyed the video, please remember to like, comment, subscribe, do all that other dumb stuff. I know you hate when YouTubers say it, but it does matter, so please do it. Or don't. I'm a man, not a cop. And if you enjoyed the video, please consider joining my Discord server. We like to have a lot of fun there, and I've asked the people to advertise it. If any of the shenanigans you're seeing on screen right now interest you, please consider joining. I think that's the guy from GTA 4 right there. I don't know. I think that's a Toho. Until next time.
Change the world. My final message.